till the man comes back. We appreciate her very much for her leadership, and she reminds me of Dr. Deborah Bartlett. Those are the two women who have been very instrumental in helping me in my broadcasting career. And it's amazing how God uses women to help us as men. And the two of them, Dr. Deborah Bartlett and Michelle White, has been very good to me in giving me the opportunity to utilize my skills and talent in broadcasting. I really appreciate that. And we want to wish Ms. White a happy birthday and that she will see many more even after this one. We can't let good people go anywhere. We got to keep them around until the man comes back. We need all of those of goodwill to build the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. People in broadcasting have a role to play, and those of you who listen to the show, you have a role to play as well. And we want you to consider that very seriously because some serious work is yet to be done. And we're going to need your support, we're going to need your backing, we're going to need your cooperation. The Constitution doesn't allow any one particular person, and I think I need to stress this. One particular person can start a fire, a spark. That's fine. But when you check Article 24.1, the very last phrase of that article, why people need to be working together for the protection of your interests, organizing yourselves, working together, cooperating with one another, sharing ideas, opinions, talent, ability, potential, finances, collectively, in a given community, in a given nation. The nation is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And we have to take that very seriously, Bahamians, because we must do that which is right, that which is good, that which is prosperous. And I'm delighted that we have Brother Cartwright just came in. He normally comes in on Thursdays. He's very faithful when he comes out. Him and Hyla, the two of them, they have been very good for the show, and I really appreciate their cooperation. And you in the audience are beginning to see the valuable contribution both of these men have been making. I need to find some more. Let me put it out there right now. Those of you who are listening to the show, you have talent, you have ability, you have potential. We're trying to build a nation under God and also along with the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Those are the foundation stones on which the nation is built, the Constitution and the Holy Bible. The people of this nation never wanted to be a nation without God. So God has to be the center and the focus of what we say, what we think, what we do. Now, there are differences of opinion among people, and that is understandable. We don't have to be antagonistic one toward another because someone has a different opinion. We discuss these things, and then we come up with the best possible solution at a given time. Just like I'm going to ask you, in this upcoming election, you're going to choose the best qualified, the best possible potential parliamentary personality to sit in that seat for your particular constituency. I'm not leaving any stone unturned when it comes to that, because we need a national government that can solve problems. We need a parliament that can make the laws, Article 52.1, that will be beneficial for the masses of the Bahamian people. Right now, so many things are going contrary. BPL, and of course, they have some serious problems with BPL. First of all, is BEC. I don't know where BEC is in the mix of this. And then you have a number of companies that are supposed to be providing electricity on the island of New Providence. And then, of course, the government is signing some other arrangements with a whole lot of other entities for the Family Islands. And Bahamians, it is most important that we understand what is going on because they say the rates are supposed to be getting lower. As I'm going to ask my producer at some point in the show to play that tape again, what we heard from the Prime Minister yesterday, because I'm asking you to help me to understand it. He talked about people having low electricity bills. The rates are supposed to drop, and I heard someone saying something totally different in my own community. So I want to know what the real facts are. Are we lowering the rates, yes or no? Or are some people getting certain benefits but others are not getting? The thing is, what has been happening in this country, we've been getting bits and pieces of information, Bahamians, which can be disjointed. And so sometimes it's very difficult to get the facts, the real facts about what is really going on in this country. And the government would always say they did nothing wrong. Did they do everything right? The answer is no. We got hard evidence to prove that. 52 years of evidence to prove that. Perhaps more than 52 years. You go all the way back to January the 10th, 1967. You're looking at 58 years, Bahamians. And by July the 10th, it will be 58 and a half years. The question is, are we going to be serious about these mounting national and constitutional issues that affect the Bahamian people, constituency issues that affect the Bahamian people? I heard Senator Enfield on air today, and I was very disappointed in some of the remarks that he made. Because remember now, he was in Minister's cabinet. I believe he was the Minister of Immigration, if I'm not mistaken. You say now you are government in waiting. Yet, when you try these two major parties and give them the reins of government, it's like we seem not to get out of the rut. It seems like when they are in opposition, they got the answers, and when they get in government, they don't have any answers. You hear all of this fancy talk. But the Bahamian people have been kind to both major parties, very kind. One fellow had 35 seats out of 39. That's a blowout, man. You see how the Bahamian electorate was kind to them? And the man decided I can cut it off 9 months, 8.5 months, 9 months of the term, which could have been used for the benefit of the Bahamian people. He saw what he called headwinds. And there are some people in that particular party who are trying to distance themselves from that which the prime minister at that time made. They were part of the man's cabinet. The fellow who's head of this party, the Free National, was a member of the cabinet too. So now you're going to come and tell us a different story about what you're going to do now while you're in opposition, and say you're government in waiting. We see now a resurfacing of all of those persons less than 5 years ago. Less than 5 years. They're now coming back on the scene to say some things to the Bahamian people. And you're going to have some new individuals coming on the scene to say some things to the Bahamian people. Now, the Constitution allows for all of this. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, all those things are entrenched in the Constitution. But remember now, this prime minister had the place locked down. Even people couldn't go to the pump to get water. They were taken into custody and arrested and charged. Do you know that, Bahamians? And this Enfield man was a member of that same cabinet, which caused that to happen to the average Bahamian. But the dog could come in here, be brought in the country to be buried. You hear any crap like that? But it happened, Bahamians, from some particular personality While you were locked down in your house, other people were doing business. But you couldn't do no business because the man say you got to be in your house. But yet now you have these very same people resurfacing Bahamians. You're going to see a resurgence of these very same people. Look at the list from the last general election. The lies that were told to you and me. Examine the evidence, Bahamians, and see if you want to go through that foolishness again instead of finding the right persons to run this place. That's what we need in this country. The Holy Bible and the Constitution are the tools you need to use to find the right persons, and we can find them. They are there. If you want gold, you got to dig deep into the ground to get it, Bahamians. And then, of course, he ended the statement, which he said, the father of the nation said, and I'm not even going to quote what is reported the founding father said, because I don't think the statement means much. We have a right to be here. God gave us this country, not the founding father. While we may respect him as the founding father, God used him. But not everything he said is automatically gospel, Bahamians, and they use it over and repeatedly again and again and again. One negative statement. Call it, stay on the line, don't go nowhere yet. And every time I hear it, it irritates me because he said some positive things, which no one quote, not a living one. You can talk about we don't deserve this. Give me a break. Call you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Professor.
Hey, what's happening?
Radio. I'm not going to bother you up, but I'm going to speak the truth. Your show is taking the town, is going forward. Some of the talk show, they water down. Their show is watering down. It's like getting a pack of Kool-Aid and putting a gallon of water inside it. No flavor, no nothing.
You know, tasting that one.
Nothing. You give people a chance to talk, and when people talking foolishness, you have the right to cut them off. And expect if they don't come with the right information, you have the right to do that. And I must say that your show is but the only one now that is really, will make people, come out and say what they have to say. You got one particular show from the morning, the whole of them wait for that company, all of them go the same road.
Yes.
If you say they know what you're saying is true, but because who they working for or whatever, they got to compromise and stuff like that. That's the reason why this country, we ain't getting no better.
Yes.
Because when we cherry pick things, you understand?
Yes.
When people saying that if they saying the truth and have facts, then the facts is the facts.
Yes.
But let me say what I have to say. My light bill used to be $200 and something. It went down 100. This last month bill was $118. And not only because of BEC, some things I do myself. I don't turn on, have light on all day through your house, fan all through your house, air condition on all day, if it's cool and stuff like that. So some things I have to do also to work along with BEC. And that's the reason why sometimes, like in the summer coming up now, I know it can elevate, but then again, I don't need too much light on all day. In the evening time, I turn my light on around about 8 o'clock in the night because it's still bright. So I just try to do some things also. I don't know if you heard that one of the MP in the F&M said in his word,
Yeah, I was informed of that. Yes, I didn't
You hear that,
actually hear
right?
it, but I heard it from a reliable source. Yes.
Now, I don't know how Mr. Pentine is going to rectify that and what he's going to say. Rebuke that MP. The MP make so it's telling you something. They are trying to divide this country. So all of those who are foolish vote for some other party and stuff like that. You see, some things come out of man's mouth, and when that come out, they can't catch it no more. You understand me, Professor?
Yeah, he could repent if he wants to.
You could repent, but when you're dealing with different type of people, stuff like that,
Yes.
he can say. You remember when Dr. Bennett say he can take care of the poor the next time?
Yes.
Well, he say he was sorry, but the people them still ain't want him no more.
What he
Some
said,
things
you
you have to
said,
be careful what you say when you're coming out to the public.
yeah, stop right there a minute. You said, what did he say afterwards when he said he would do for the poor again? What did he say after that? He came back
But,
and apologized to the people
yeah,
when he did that.
not then, not then, not right then.
Uh-huh.
But he came on when they questioned him on these things. He said, "Yes, I was sorry for saying it," and you know, so
Wait, someone had to ask him about it, and he made
yeah,
a remark like that.
yeah. Somebody asked him about it.
Well, I think,
Yeah,
that,
he didn't really come right out himself, and
and
you
made a
know,
public apology.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
You see, so what I saying, Professor, we have to play this level field right in this country. We can't cherry pick on certain things. MPs, children, they could do things and get scot by free. You never you the Turin and Fox Hill and Camp Road, they'll drag them before the court.
Yes.
You have many cases with MPs, children, what do things, and you ain't hear nothing yet about these cases.
Yeah, you're right.
The man, the man from Canada, the judge, he said he is not gonna be long with these cases and stuff like that, because he a man just come from Canada,
Yes.
and if he could see what's going on, and we live here, why one cases going on for 6 and 7 years?
And
The
it's not
Nisha Roll
necessary.
case, they don't have a court date for her yet.
Yes.
You understand me, Professor?
Yeah, well, I understand you quite well.
Okay. So, in other words, why? Why? We are doing these things. Look at another MP for Long Island. He been out of assembly talking foolishness. I know he dealing with a matter, and but oh my God, I don't understand what's going on inside this country, Professor.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, thanks, eh?
I can understand your stress. Bahamians are not supposed to be frustrated. Do you know, and I was thinking about this today, I might have said it yesterday, but let me repeat it for the benefit of the Bahamian people. The Constitution says no man, woman, or child shall ever have their lives frustrated by deprivation. You know how important that is, Bahamians? Bahamians being stressed out by agencies of the state, by the government itself, by members of the House of Assembly, by senators, by ministers in the cabinet, by agencies of the government. People who sit in these different positions stressing people out. And you also have people in the private sector who stress people out. That's unconstitutional, Bahamians. You're not supposed to have 1 second of stress as of July the 10th, 1973. You're supposed to have a stress-free nation. But are you getting that? Look how many people are committing suicide or attempting to commit suicide. I said publicly that Bahamians don't commit suicide. I'm beginning to look at that a little differently now because some new information is coming to me, which I'm about to study and look at more carefully. Something is happening in this country that is causing people to do things that they would not ordinarily do. Now, you got some people in our midst who are not Bahamians. I noticed in certain areas, in fact, the constituency I live in, we have a bunch of strangers. In fact, the other night, I think it was 2 nights ago, if I'm not mistaken, I heard this music in the area. And when I went outside, one particular corner had some other people in there who ordinarily don't live there. So where did they come from? And playing this music or noise. Let me say noise. People like to play noise. We have strangers, foreigners, aliens, outsiders in our country. Do we know how many of them are in here? Do we know how many Bahamians we have? Because I'm not on the registry, I'm not on the statistical information. So they say the Bahamas Statistical Institute, whatever they call themselves, they have inaccurate information because my family members are not on it. And I certainly am not counted in statistics. So they got to go and correct that. Are they going to admit that they're wrong? Because people up and down in the street, I saw them with my own 2 eyes. Who the heck they were looking for? But they never came to the residence where I live. So what does that tell you, Bahamians? They did a sloppy job this time around. All the others before that, I was there on the census. So what happened now? Bahamians, we got to fix that. That census is incorrect. The numbers they're giving you is fraudulent information. They got to go fix it. The point is, Bahamians, you ought to know exactly what is going on in your country when it comes to population. Who is who? Bahamians, foreigners, aliens, outsiders. You ought to know, Bahamians. The Bahamas is for Bahamians, primarily. And the others by invitation. You don't come here and talk about you won't be here. And I heard Enfield talking about us, Bahamians, well, the people in the country, of course, to deal with Haiti. We have had enough problems with the people of Haiti. What is happening now is even worse than ever before. Gang leaders have taken over the nation. And yet the man is saying that the defense force people in there, they're not complaining about anything. They're safe. You won't know until tragedy strikes. Then you got to bring them back in a coffin. What kind of protection do they have? The Ministry of National Security is saying the information that is floating out there is false. But I'm going to challenge them to bring the evidence of what's going on with our people. The agreement, what was signed, we haven't heard that revealed. So we just can't take the word of a political personality. Put the evidence on the table and let the Bahamian people make their own decision. Not because you say it, that means that's what it is. Because we know a whole lot of things have been said which were not true. So it is the duty of us. They say get the facts, but I can call them and get the facts. And I can tell you publicly, if they fail to give me the information, I will scrutinize it, analyze it, investigate it before I say anything about it publicly. But the man say, Bahamians, do not listen to this. What they say is out there floating around. But then we can tell you how you present the evidence then. Let us know what is happening with our men and women in Haiti, because they've not put that on the table. But they could jump up and say it ain't true. When one fella said he's a Haitian a couple of years ago now, he said that ain't true. That went quiet. Still up to this very day. But the point is, when something else was said from that office, Oh, that's not true. That's fake news. Good. What else is not true? Because Bahamians, we've been getting bits and pieces of information as it relates to the interests of the Bahamian people. We need to get the story straight because Bahamians, it is most important that we understand what is going on. Don't wait until the fella's got to come home in a coffin. Then you come in with some sad story. What kind of protection you could give them then? You can't give them no protection. The problem in our country is we always wait for tragedy to strike, then we start fiddling around to see what we're supposed to do. Families, it can't work that way. You have to take precautionary measures to prevent something. You know the kind of people those people are in Haiti. Ain't like we don't know. They were independent from 1804 right on up to now, and yet they're not able to deal with their internal affairs. They said it must be Haitian-led. That's what Caribbeans, the Caribbean nations say. The solution to Haiti's problems must be Haitian-led. Well, fine. But the man said on air today, these people would rather jump on a boat instead of staying in Haiti and building up that nation. They would jump on one boat, cross all this water, deep ocean water, to get to somebody else's territory, risking their lives. And plenty of them have drowned in that water. Can't find them. You mean people are that desperate they're prepared to risk their lives on these rickety boats, paying smugglers what has been reported that they are paying them? They ain't quite sure what the figure is. Thousands of dollars. And they never reach where they're supposed to go. They end up in the ocean. Famous, this is a serious matter, you know. And the Bahamas cannot take on the problems of Haiti. We don't have what it takes. They need to stay right where God put them. God gave them Haiti. God gave the Bahamas for Bahamians. Now, how they handle their things, that's their thing. They want it to be Haitian-led, fine. It should be Haitian-led, fine. But let's see what they do with it then. All we have is a bunch of violence, slaughteration of human life, raping of women and children, and other nefarious things happening across Haiti today. We have to get it right, Bahamians. We got to deal with the Bahamas, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson. When I get back, I'm going to introduce my special guest here. Bahamians, there are some disturbing things that are happening, and you can do something about it. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. The lines are open, 326-0271, 326-0272, 813-0271. We'll be back after the break.
talking about Haiti
Yes,
and
ma'am.
all they're doing in terms of raping and plundering and doing all that thing.
All kind of crappy things.
They have allowed, I think, in one of the cities, they have just allowed 500 prisoners to come out of the jail. I
Wow.
wonder how many of them are here.
I hear in the Bahamas, yes.
And I hear the Commodore talking about how effective they've been down in the southern Bahamas. But Professor, if they were so effective, how come we have so many Haitians here now?
Yes.
And that is because they're not coming by boat anymore. They're coming through the airport. And so
Yes.
I would like for the Minister of Foreign Affairs to tell us exactly how many visas have been issued from they have been in office until up to now.
That's correct.
We need to know how many visas have been issued to Haitian nationals so that we can have an idea of what we're dealing with in this country.
Yes, ma'am. No, you have a valid point. Very valid point.
I will hang up and allow you to introduce your special guest.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your contribution. That's a very good call, and the caller asks questions. The Ministry of
Professor Man, we Rachel working together, mightn't talk every day, but we love this country.
the,
And we can speak out.
if the Bahamian people love the country, that's good.
Yes,
I want to see it in action.
yes, I agree.
I am not satisfied from what I know and from what I understand, because I want the Bahamian people to make the right decision. This time around, when they have to choose persons to sit in the House of Assembly.
I think it can happen, Mr. Thompson.
Well, let's
I
put
believe
it
it's
this
gonna-
way. See, there's a way to know ahead of time.
Yes,
Now, the two questions I've been asking
yes.
about the constituency and about the nation, you put that to those people who are there now. You don't have to ask the new candidates about that, others who say they want to be there, although you could speak to them about it if you so
Yeah.
desire. Ask those there now. And the constituents ought to know whether any major constituency problems have been solved. And the people of the nation ought to know whether the government of the Commonwealth of Bahamas has solved any major national problems. And if they have, what are the benefits that come to the Bahamian people?
Not enough. And if they
Ain't
think they-
nothing. When I look at the evidence, I don't see any evidence whatsoever.
Mr. Thompson, they can tell us, say, well, we use in abroad, but they can say, well, we built some community centers. We get.
No. We ain't talking about that. That's just child play.
I agree.
The Constitution says what Parliament is supposed to do. Article 52(1). I ain't seen nothing about no putting up no centers there.
No.
And no giving out no turkey and no ham and them kind of thing. Although if you got money to do that, go ahead and do it then.
And if you need it, take it.
Well, I don't blame the people to take it.
Yeah. So, Mr. Thompson,
Yes,
sound
sir.
like my battery going. They're trying.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Make
Okay.
the call.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, Mr. Thompson, I say to myself, I don't know if you will agree. I'm not agree, but if you will understand where I coming from. I was shot before, right? 1989, Louis, my side. I still alive. I thank God for that.
Okay.
I thank God the bullets, whatever the intentions was, the shooter did want to, it didn't happen. You understand?
Yes.
But I lost my sight, right?
Wow.
But I still thank God for life. I don't want to say thanks to all of those persons with bad intentions out there with weapons who robbing people, who take the money, rob the people, and did not kill them, like with what was reported on the news with the Deputy Commissioner of Police. I ain't picking up no robber. I can't, every police could catch them and punish them. But I'm saying, for all of those persons out there who might get robbed and still alive, I thank God that they still here. I thank God they didn't kill the Deputy Commissioner of Police. And I wish they could stop doing these foolishness, robbing our own people, man. You know, I just wish they could find something to do, or somehow we could work with them to help them before they reach that far to want to do these things. The last thing I want to say, Mr. Thompson, I agree with some people saying, I think the gentleman say he's family to the Haitian people. We never did know that all our life. We know him as a Bahamian. But all of a sudden, close to the election, he say he's Haitian, right? And now it seems like there's some kind of working with these Haitian people who might have, I guess you might say, fraudulent documents in our country with our passport.
Did you say you guess I may say fraudulent documents?
No, I guess listening over the years, there's some fraudulent actions going on.
There is hardcore evidence that the Patriots have, and others have it, that fraudulent documents have been going on for quite a time in this country.
You listen to the news, you can hear the passport office, you hear a lot of stuff, but my point is that I never did know the man was a Haitian. I wish he could tell us Haitian people, because it seems like, I don't know how much truth it is, right? I thought like these people who illegally burning these trees and making coal, like either they selling it right here, but I couldn't believe it when the people say they sending it back to Haiti. I say, man, it can't be that obvious. It can't be like that we allowing that to happen. So I wish this man could tell us Haitian people, if they involved with it, to stop burning our trees and making coal and stuff like that, stop doing these illegal things. I don't know if you hear anything on the news.
If you are of a different nationality, you can't be in government.
Well, I don't know why you say that. I never know him as a Haitian. You say him and them is one. And now it seems like they're trying to get the Haitian vote to outvote the Bahamian.
Did you see him come back and deny it?
No, it must be true.
Then. How long has that been now? A couple of years, right?
Was a Haitian. Next time I see him, I got to tell him, suck pass safe, Chief. Keep up the good work, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Papa. Thank you, Papa. It's trouble. Brother Cartwright. Welcome to Global Radio Rendering 99.5 FM.
Good afternoon, Professor. Good afternoon to the producer, J. Wiz, and the Global 99.5 FM audience. Professor, over the last couple of weeks, we start to see a lot of strange things happening in our country.
Yes, yeah.
We hear the Commodore saying that illegal trafficking by water is down. But we now seeing things whereby that in the passport office, and we've seen by the larger increase of flights to Haiti by our national air carrier, which has said that is their biggest production when it comes to them making money. So it tells me that if the smugglers realize that the Defense Force is heavily patrolling the waters, they will find other avenues to get in to the Bahamas.
Yes.
We've now seen where the Foreign Affairs Ministry has now have another agency in the Foreign Affairs, which is called the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Yes, I heard about that. Yeah.
And what is alarming is that the Department of Foreign Affairs has now been given a mandate whereby that they handle passports, renunciation of citizenship, and other travel documents. You know, I always told people that back in the day, if you was to lose your passport, you could go to the embassy, and the embassy would give you a temporary travel document to get home.
Yeah.
We've been hearing the Minister of Foreign Affairs is stating that they are trying to get passports back to embassies like in the U.S. to get Bahamians documents. And I was like, how did you get into the U.S.?
Exactly.
without a document,
Without a document.
or with a document that is basically that was expired.
Right.
Because if you got an expired travel document and you have an embassy that is in that country, it's up to you to go to that embassy and say, listen, you know what? My travel document's about to expire. So
Right.
I might need a temporary document or something to say that I will now be able to head back home because I'm going to have to go and have this document updated. So when I hear things whereby that you are now facilitating, it makes me question your initiatives. And then also when you hear persons in the passport office are being charged with falsifying documents, and I would go on record and saying, I find it hard to believe there's only 3 Bahamians involved.
I find it hard, difficult.
Yeah, I don't believe it's only those 3. It's many more and might be more and higher up.
But
So
you higher up on the
on the
higher
high
level
level. So
of government.
you know, I remember I had spoken with a friend of mine back in the day when he had served in government, and he was like, if you was to go into the Ministry of Immigration and to see the documents that were on the floor of offices going up to the ceiling,
Yes.
and I was like, and he said, you know, so scary. He said, I don't believe much has changed.
Okay.
So I was like, well, how do you process all of these stuff for persons? Because one of the things I've noticed now is that I've seen more foreign men now claiming to be Bahamians. And I
Yes.
was like, that ain't the way this Constitution operates, because
No, it doesn't.
we don't transfer citizenship through marriage to Bahamian women.
No.
We only do that to the Bahamian man.
The Bahamian man.
And even if that man marries a foreign woman and they get a divorce, she might be a Bahamian, but her husband, if he's a foreign man, will only be able to qualify for permanent status. So how is it now you have non-Bahamian males who are now married to Bahamian women and walking around and bragging about they have their Bahamian documents? And I'm like,
Say they have Bahamian citizenship.
yeah, I'm
That is
now.
that
I'm
is
looking.
fraudulent.
Yeah, I'm looking now at the ministry. It's like somebody in government needs to explain how is it, because if you look into the newspapers, you start to see many. You know, at first I thought it was only the people from Haiti, but now I'm seeing people that
People from
Indian,
different nations.
Indian
That's correct.
background, Spanish, all over. And I was like, how are all these people qualifying to become Bahamians? Under what grounds? And the only thing I came up with was basically they're being called under the Nationality Act, which is a illegal act.
It is illegal.
And so when you look at it, you sit down and you see how the parliament operates. It's like apparently nobody seems to be knowing what they're doing. You know, I
That is the
heard
problem.
on the news yesterday, and I was taken aback by the statement by the MP for Sudan, because I was like,
Yes, someone told me about that.
if you don't like the government, you don't like how some people vote, that is their prerogative. But for you to demean the Bahamian voter by saying that only one set of people, when they vote your party, are intelligent and the other set of people are foolish, to me, that is a very, very, very serious insult to the Bahamian voting public.
Yes.
And I think that as a member sitting in our parliament, he should have been made to apologize for that statement he made right there and then. Because to me, that is an insult. I don't care whether you are on the government side or you're on the opposition side. If somebody make a statement like that, your colleague's supposed to reprimand you on your wrist and say, hey, that ain't what we here for.
Right.
And so when you look at all of these things going on, it is amazing now how with the election about a couple months away going into the new year, into the next year,
Okay.
that all of a sudden you're starting to see clinics or health centers are now being refurbished and opening.
Yes.
You're seeing crossings now being painted on the streets over the speed bumps and other things. And I was like, did we have an epiphany? Was something drastic If that happened, would cause all of this rush for upkeep because you look at it now. You got I know. I live in St. Barnabas, and I see where we had a picture, and they had a groundbreaking uh, event saying for the new clinic, and I'm like, okay. And so I went and visited the site, and I was like, okay, it's nice. They're going to give us a clinic after all of these years, but why waste the land when you can basically go up? You know, they keep building these health centers and they spread it over the little space. And I was like, but they still open it from and close at 5. And I was like, so if somebody has some major injury, we still going to be having to go all the way to Princess Margaret. So it's like, why not use the space, go up where now we can even have these centers, some of them to be open 24 hours. Take the load off the major hospital. You know, so some of the things I'm seeing them doing, it's like, yeah, you're doing it. And all of a sudden now you got money to do these things. And it's like, I hear the Minister of Health saying, well, you know, this is going to be a new style of facility where we'll have a morgue, pharmacy. And I say, okay, that's good. But why didn't you do this in your first 100 days when you first came to office?
Exactly.
So all of these things I said, you know, and I told some friends of mine, I said, you know, this is election season now, right? I said, yeah, we know this because we're starting to see a lot of things get done. We've seen where some members of parliament say they're not running. We've seen where former members are saying, they're poking up out of the woodwork saying they're going to run again. And so it's like, yeah, this is the silly season. And so when you look at all of this stuff going on, we had the Deputy Prime Minister telling us that all the SpaceX program, everything was up and up. And then all of a sudden now you're telling us, well, we suspend them for their next operations until they bring some other clarity. And so it's like, what is it you asking and what are you doing? Are you telling the Bahamian people the truth or are you falsifying the records? And so everything is basically topsy-turvy. You know, Papa talk, the guy before Papa was talking about the court cases, and I was like,
that's correct.
How's it that only in the Bahamas, a case lasts more than 2 years, especially when you say it's a case against when it's a sitting member or anyone these days?
That's correct.
Why does it have to take that long? If you have the evidence and you prove that this fella is guilty or she is guilty, lay the evidence and let their peers make that judgment. And that's it. Move on.
That's right.
You keep delaying cases. So when I see this out, if you see the court keep delaying the case, putting it off, it ain't the lawyer, it's the judge. It means that the prosecution don't have sufficient evidence for a conviction, and they're hoping to take this into the election, and then it spills over. The electricity bill, and I smiled when I hear the Prime Minister talk, but the light bills and stuff goes down. I said, yes, it would go down. For one reason, between the days of January and this month, you still have a lot of coolness in the air.
Yes.
So you don't need to have your AC on. You don't need to do other things whereby that you light, because now with more daylight, you don't need no turn on power. So you would see some reduction. But the one thing I notice is that every time when you see BPL has a minor problem where that they do a shutdown and come back on, you notice that there's be an uptake in whatever the power surge, which somehow is be passed on to the public for some reason. I don't know why, but these are the things that we see. You know, the last time I didn't go to Parliament yesterday, but previously I had spoken with a sitting member, and I said to him, I said, you represent an island, one of these islands that is it's the gateway of our country, coming from Africa and Europe.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, you know, somebody on the island is building. I said, no, I'm not talking about a small little port. I'm saying, have you investigated and found out that what I'm saying to you now, that the people who build this cruise port also build a container port? Why haven't you sat down, do your investigation, go to your colleagues and say, listen, we can now find ways to combat these tussles going on between the U.S. and China. If we could now have our own container port. One of his articles said, well, I said, no, you don't own a container port in Freeport. That is owned privately. I am talking about us as a group of people, the Bahamian people, owning our own container port, because Maguana has a natural deep harbor, which is deeper than all the container ports in this region, and which makes it so maddening. You stand on the shores of Maguana, you can see all the cargo ships passing through our waters, going into the U.S. and other parts of the Caribbean. I was like, are we being compensated for this stuff?
For that water.
Yeah. So I say, that water is part of our natural resources.
That's our natural resources.
Are we being compensated?
Yeah.
I look at all these things and I was like, what are we doing? We talk about farming, agriculture. We turn around and we hear the Prime Minister talking about dropping rates to bring in stuff from foreign countries in the region. I said, so what are you doing to help your people in agriculture? Why not look at other countries, not only in the region, but around the world, who has basically the same type of, not even the same type, but basically poor soil, and they're making a go at it where they're now working to sustain themselves, feeding themselves and other things. So I was like, when you look at all the things when we talk about this country, you look at them administration that you figure that by the words they call themselves New Day,
Yeah.
that they would come up with some new ideas to move the country forward.
Yes.
And from what I'm seeing now is that there's nothing new about them.
Okay.
They might be new with new members, might be new in numbers, but when you look at the country itself and how we should have been moved years ahead, we still basically still trying to figure out how to do basic stuff. They had the BAMSE program, and I saw when I saw them in Long Island, they were talking about the shade doing with bananas and stuff. So I was like, I look now and I was like, I haven't seen this program been that advanced. So you still got farmers and stuff. I remember as a child, we used to grow onions, tomatoes,
That's correct.
and other little fruits and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, we have not embraced, we have not advanced technology,
Yes.
use it to basically improve our agriculture product. We have not seen no one gone back and set up canneries. We had that we could use some of the excess products that instead of having them to be thrown away, we could can them and then put them on the shelves. We could invite those major food stores to say, okay, you want how many of these stuff you need? Talk to the Bahamian farmers to let them mandate them to supply you. So, when you think about it, we have a group of people sitting down in Parliament. I don't know what they're thinking. And like I said to others, I said, listen, if there's another party there, and if they happens to be able to get themselves some seats, my brother, do not follow the part of what you're saying now.
Mhm.
And so that's why I told someone, I said, I will speak with my good friend out of Grand Bahama, Mr. Am Lewis, who I knew very well.
Okay.
Bring something new to the table. If you want to separate yourself from the two big colossal giants, you
Yeah.
got to present yourself as bringing something positive that the Bahamian people will buy into, because whether those parliamentarians understand it, the Bahamian people are very hungry right now. And like everything else, Bahamians are looking for something that is going to benefit them and their future.
But I don't blame them.
And I don't hold that against them.
No, I don't either. And I think they're going to have the opportunity to do that in grand style. It is just that there are some very specific things that the Bahamian public need to understand, because I believe some of them still in shock after 52 years. They can't believe the people they trusted so well, gave so much confidence in them. And you see from the electorate how they behave. They had all kinds of confidence in these people. I got to stop right now because I hear the music. This is Professor Sidney McGarter Walter Thompson. Brother Cartwright, we appreciate your contribution. This is Professor Sidney McGarter Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. The lines are wide open, 326-0271, 326-0272, 813-0271. Bahamians, we have work to do. We need your cooperation. We need your support. We'll be back after the break. Of this country to do their part in saving the country because we are in serious difficulty. We're going to hear a clip from the Prime Minister. My producer is going to put it on now about BPL. Mr. Producer.
And there was over 8,200 households that paid between $100 and $124 for the electricity bills in January.
Who feels it knows it?
They feeling it. Now, I'm speaking in total, this means that 62% of households had electricity bills in this country below $125. 62% of the Haman households. We're looking after the least amongst us. We're looking after our vulnerable people. Right? That's what we're doing. And this is just the beginning.
Yes, sir.
This is just the beginning.
Brother Cartwright, I need you to explain to me what the Prime Minister is talking about.
The Prime Minister, every time he speaks, whether in the House or outside the House, he says some amazing things. And I hope Bahamians understand where I'm about to go with this, because he speaks about that 8,000, and he said Bahamian households. I don't know if he's talking about the pseudo Bahamians or he's talking about the organic Bahamians. Because the average organic Bahamian will tell you that their light bill has not been under $100.
But he said 68%.
But that's what I'm saying. Is he talking
So
about
who's he talking
is
about?
he talking about those pseudo Bahamians or is he talking about organic Bahamians?
It's his own light bill, $100, $120.
I doubt it. The average Bahamian will tell you their light bill is about $125 to $150. The average Bahamian. He talks about the less vulnerable about us.
That's what he said, yes.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, speaking about the less vulnerable, if we had a real program in place, then you would not have need for places like the church I attend, or Bishop Lawrence Roll, Bishop Walter Henschel,
Yes.
the Methodist Church, the program of the Foxhole, which is for those who are the less privileged, offering food and services, means that if the government of the Bahamas had some serious programs in place, we would not have to do a lot of these things that you see now happening, whereby most communities, the less fortunate is being taken care of by the church
Yes.
and other organizations. So if the government was really care and showed any feelings for those people, we would not be seeing Bahamians sleeping on the side of the road. We would not
Okay.
be seeing them laid out on benches and stuff. So I don't know which people he talking about, but those are the people I see every day.
Yes.
I'm not in government. I'm not even a member of parliament. So if people can see these things and then you telling me that you taking care of the poor, which
Yes.
poor? You sound like the former prime minister when he made a statement. I made it. I'm still shocked about his statement
Yeah.
that he said and I was like, he was honest. He said, I know I did not take care of the poor, but I will the next time.
Next time.
And I was like, you telling the Bahamian people now that you looking out for the less unfortunate. So why do we have a lot of Bahamians walking around committing stuff like suicide? Because
Right.
it tells me that these people who are Bahamians who are committing suicide or attempting to take their lives, it can't be life good for them. Because if life was good for them, they wouldn't go down that road. And so for them now to meet these harsh challenges that you brag about, this town is doing well, then in your eyes, I don't know what glasses you're wearing, because you ain't seeing what we seeing out here. So that's another problem I have with his statement. A lot of things the prime minister talks about, and I don't like it because every time he speaks about, people ask him about contracts and everything is basically drafted in a non-disclosure.
Yes, that's correct.
And my feeling is that if there's nothing shady, you would not have to hide it from the Bahamian public. You would publicly declare what is in those agreements. Because
Agreements, yes.
I remember when he did the paid out to the police officers of the high ranking of the police force. And he said, oh, I'm doing this to protect them. So what about me? Where does my protection come in? What about those who lost their jobs and you made payments, or they went to court and sued you, and the court turned around and give them a little stipend in compared to what these gentlemen got?
Yes.
And you turn around and you made some of them commissioners, turn around and then make them ambassadors.
That's
So
correct.
you basically triple the payout to these people. You turn around and a lot of things he's done has no clarity, because we've heard they had a sale for the hotel in Freeport.
Yes.
That didn't come true. But you wouldn't tell us why. We heard about the moorings situation in the Exumas. You declared that that's it. You don't even want to hear nothing about it. So to me, you are acting as if you're a dictator or you're a king. And the last time I checked, our system doesn't allow you to be king because we only had one monarchy, which is King Charles. And I don't remember hearing that we had a King Philip. So it's a lot of things that you listen to him, they're not being clear to the Benin people about. And it is a track record of this prime minister. When he makes declaration, a lot of things he leaves out. And so this is where you find the Bahamian people are very, very, very disturbing and challenged because, like Papa said, no one asked him. He said that he is of Haitian descent or he's Haitian. I am you and you are me. And he was like, we didn't know that.
No.
So how come if you was one of them, so how will you come be sitting in our parliament? You
Good
need to
question.
step down.
Good question.
And and when you look at a lot of the things that he's doing, it's like it's on a hell-bent road to destruction.
Right. Big
And
road to destruction.
what's amazing is that your colleagues in the parliament, especially those on the administrative side,
Right.
don't seem to understand that when they were outside of parliament, yes, you are a party affiliate, but inside that place, you represent the Bahamian people.
Totally different.
And you got to understand that on the outside, yes, you're the MP for Carmichael, you're the MP for
That's all it is.
Sedans. But
Whatever.
once you get into parliament, that MP stops right there. Because now you all as a collective, job is to come with ideas to better the country.
Better the country, yeah.
I think we got to call it
I
on
think
it.
we have
Yeah.
a call. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Call you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes,
Speak a
sir.
little louder.
Okay. The
What?
member of Parliament for South Andros, Mr. Leon Lundy, he has represented South Andros for almost 5 years,
Uh-huh.
and he haven't done anything for that area. He haven't had no town meeting, but he is smiling all over TV, saying he's going to run again and he's going to win.
Okay.
How can he fix his mouth to come to South Andros knowing that he hasn't done anything for the past 4 years?
Okay.
Well, call, I would say this.
You think that's right?
It isn't right, but you got to understand now, he might feel he don't need to do nothing, and the people of South Andros will return him back for not doing anything. So it's up to the constituents of South Andros to say to him, man, he comes around, he, like you say, he's smiling, you smile with him. And then when you get into your booth, you let him know how your smile look like. So,
Yeah.
it's amazing me how many of these people who sit in the parliament that when they get up and they said, I rise on behalf of the good people.
Oh, I can't.
And I laugh and I said, the people might be good, but what are you doing for those good people? Are you doing something that those good people can say, something? Yes, he didn't do all of what he's saying, but at least we see some things that is beneficial to the community and also our lives. And this is what I try to say to many of them. I said, listen, man, don't get caught up drinking the Kool-Aid of your party colors. You got to realize that once you get elected, you're no longer the PLP candidate. You are the parliamentary representative for that constituency, means that all voters in that constituency is your responsibility.
That's
And I
right.
think a
That's
lot of
correct.
them don't understand that. And I think they still, I don't know if they have a guidebook to explain to them the difference between party affiliation and parliamentary representation.
The only book that can explain that to them is the Constitution.
And
Okay.
that's where a lot of them lack.
That's what they lack. Yes, that is correct. So I'm saying that I'm going to have to go to great lengths to dig out every single article in that Constitution that speaks to the governance of this country. The Bahamian people do not know. We've been making some bad decisions. The electorate has been making some bad decisions. Perhaps they didn't understand what they were doing. But they had 52 years of that. The thing is that we have seen the evidence, Bahamians. It's right there in your face. We can't keep going the way we're going now. We have too many problems on the backs of the Bahamian people. And we have a government and we have members in the House of Assembly and in the Senate. The same to be lost. Bahamians, as the electorate, we have to be responsible to make sure that we help save the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We need to save it, Bahamians. The people you gave the authority to have let us down for 52 years. It's just got worse over the years. But maybe you thought you were doing the right thing. You one wide swing, whop, give them fellas 35 seats. One wide swing, whop, give the other fellas 32 seats. Bahamians, it has not helped us. The last two elections has not helped us at all in nation building. But you gave them the power. Not one of them could come back and say we didn't have the authority to do it. Or the vote was too tight. Boy, we couldn't get there. We just lost by one vote. No, they had it in an abundance. And still nothing has happened. That's why I asked the question, what major national problems have been solved? What major constituency problems have been solved? These people don't have any excuse. You gave them broad powers, tremendous power. This crew got it today. They got 32 out of 39. How many more seats you want to give them, Bahamians?
Yes.
How many?
I'm going to say one more thing about the South.
Go ahead, bro.
Go ahead.
The South has two bridges, right? And only one car could go across at a time. And it's almost on a daily basis where two cars meet on the middle of the bridge, and one has to decide to reverse back. He should be having a town meeting saying, look, man, we have to get rid of these two bridges where it is that two cars can pass the bridge at the same time. There was a time, I think it was last year or year before last, where a big truck and a small car run head on the bridge. It just don't make no sense.
Caller, it's amazed me that then you have persons who
Thank you, caller, for your
who
contribution.
represent these constituencies, especially those in the family islands where they live, and they see the problem. Like, for instance, like he's saying now in Andres, how can you sit down as an MP and not say to yourself, hold on, man, we can only let traffic cross these bridges one way at a time, and then once we stop, we can let them go the next week. Why not widen the bridge where you can have consistent traffic flowing left to right, north to south? Easy solution. When I think about this, I think about how with the clinic or the healthcare center that is going to be built in my community in St. Barnabas, and it's going to be built right next to the parking lot next to BPL.
Yes.
And I was like, why are they building this spreading out of this clinic? And why not use the space where you can now go up? For some reason, I don't know why we don't believe in going up and using the space that we have, because if you see in these communities that are challenged, like St. Barnabas and stuff, if we have whether it's an accident or someone, whether it's, God forbid, a stab or gunshot, you're still going to have to end up going to Princess Margaret. So why not use that space? You can now have a mini theater built in, because you already say you can have a morgue. So if you can have a morgue in the clinic, automatically you've got to have some space for operations to go up. And if you have a client, the patient who needs to be stayed overnight, you can basically have that patient held there. So I look at the building and I look at the map and I look at the drawing and I was like, what a waste. This is a waste of money if you can build it like this. And I said, if we start to build more of our clinics to facilitate the areas that these communities that you claim are harsh communities, you will get people will respond and see, because I was telling someone the other day, I said, we should now, in this 2025, should not be having too many more clinics. We should have been having health centers more like mini hospitals.
I agree.
I said, when you look at the structure of the layout of this island, if an ambulance, something happened in Yamacraw, an ambulance has to leave all the way from Princess Margaret, go all the way out east. Then you could have basically looked at the Elizabeth Estate, make that a mini hospital. You look out in South Beach, next to South Beach Police Station. When they were designing, I was like, why couldn't these people gone up? You look at in Carmichael, the same thing. And so, and someone said, even if you don't have the money to go up right away, you could structure it whereby that at a later date, you can continue to build going up. So I said, well, what happened to the engineers at Ministry of Works? No one's saying the wisdom to say, sir, we don't need to spread out no longer, We can now design our clinics or mini hospital or healthcare centers as a 3-story building.
Yes.
So vision-wise, it tells me that either the minister or his advisors don't see that vision, or basically they refuse to change. They just want to say, we're going to build something and throw it up anywhere, give out some money and call it a day. And so when you think about all of this, you said, is the Bahamian money out of our treasuries being spent wisely to provide services to our communities?
Yes.
We look at even our fire departments. We could strategically put a lot of our resources into those areas whereby that our police stations should be designed where they should have a fire engine.
Yes.
So if you have emergencies with fire, you don't have to be coming all the way across town. And I keep saying this over and over, is that vision-wise, and I told some friends of mine, I said, the new party or the third party, I said, they have some great vision, but the problem I have is that they need to define their vision. Don't be like these guys now who reads off a piece of paper and tell you, well, this is our vision, and then once they get in, you ask them, okay, give me some more details. They can't explain it. And we watch all of this, and he was like, we could do more, because when I look at other countries that has been independent, in some of them cases, less years than us,
Yes.
and to see the advancement that they've done to their nation, because I always tell people, like, when you look at the nation of Israel, and I was like, that's the desert. But these people are more self-sufficient than us, who have all this water. We've got surrounded by 98% water. And you telling me we still haven't learned how to convert the salt water to very drinkable, clean water. Okay. We've not learned how to use the salt water as a form of energy. We've got all the sun. We haven't learned that we should supposed to be leading the world in solarizing. Like I was telling someone before, a airspace we have, we don't take advantage of it.
No, we're not.
And, I told someone, I said, we don't need to build a 20, as they said, I remember in Long Island, they said a $20 million airport. And I was like,
wow,
$20 million airport. I said, as much as I like them to build an airport, I said, but you only got roughly about 5,000 people living in Long Island. So if you put $20 million into that airport, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to build it? You're going to now bring in people from outside, and not only that, but most of them might end up being non-Bahamians working. So now you have a clash of culture. And I was like, why not build something that is feasible, and you can make it an international airport. I saw there in the news the prime minister's bragging about a brand new international airport in his constituency, and I was like, you've been there 30 years, and you have not given your constituency a proper airport, because that used to be an international airport at one time.
Yeah.
But Long Island, which is up the road from you, has never had an international or proper airport.
That's correct.
But you could find time to brag. And I was like, are you looking out for Bahamians or are you looking out for yourself? Because when you look at all of these things, this is how you look at and grade your leaders. And I keep saying to people, a lot of things that we see and we hear, it's amazing that Bahamians just let it slide. You know, like you saying now with the senators. You know, at one time ago, I used to listen to my cousin. I said, man, my cousin's on a good wicket, Senator Henfield.
Yeah.
But I would say this to my good cousin, Darren Henfield, Senator Henfield. Bahamians have been farming long time. Bahamians have been capable of farming. We don't need any outsider to work the farms in the Bahamas. If you want to compensate Bahamians in farming, you can pay them a minimum wage, but also you can add to that minimum wage where that the owners of those farms pay them a percentage from the profits that they make from the proceeds. That's how you basically become innovative. We have not set up our school children to learn how to be sustainable. You know, when my late father was alive, and he used to tell me how, when he was a young man going to school, they used to have a garden where they learned to farm. So it was like, if you don't be highly academic, but this is what you can learn to do so you can self-sustain and feed yourself.
Yeah.
We have not taken that step with BAMSI or any other food technical ideology to use. We talk about our young men, and there's no program for our young men to follow up to become good citizens. And I always tell people that farming and fishing is a good field that you could groom your young men to be a part of, that they can become good citizens. You know, we sat down after the Easter Junkanoo Rush, and I was talking with some of the other groups, friends who was there, some friends, and they said to them, I said, you know, do you all realize that Junkanoo is such a big,
Very much so,
cultural, economic setting? Why haven't we put it into the schools where we could get our young men? I said, and people don't realize it, but for those who don't realize it, that if you check the records during the time of between September going into December into that first week in January, if you look at the crime rate in that span, it is very low. You know why? Most of those young men are in those shacks working. And you know why they were in those shacks pacing? Because you got members in those Junkanoo groups turn around and say, listen, man, you know what? I don't have time for my job to pace my cost home. But here's what I can do. I can give you $100 or, you know, well, let's work on the price. And they make, and during that span, they make a living for themselves and their family during that short span. And once Junkanoo is over, there's nothing else left for them to do. So what else are they going to do? They go back. And so I'm saying, we got more ideas out there that we could do to enhance our young men. And even in our communities, you know, we see a lot of people in these communities and or constituencies are basically challenged. We've seen people in most of these communities walking around and going into garbage bins and eating out of those garbage bins. And I say, why haven't we looked at some of these derelict properties and sit down with the owners and say, you know what, we will pay you a stipend. We want to use this property as a rest spot for those to catch themselves until they can do better. and you basically give them a stipend. People willing to help their neighbor if there's something back. You cannot expect to take someone's property and say, oh, we can do this and we can do that. And then
do it like that.
Yeah. No. That man and lady earned that right to have that property.
That's right.
As a Bahamian, that's their right. You cannot force them to give you their property for nothing. That is why you find that in most of these family islands, when it comes to the airports, the biggest problem they had in Long Island is that the people who live around the airport was promised compensation for their properties, and no administration lived up to the word. And then they didn't even offer those persons, hey, if you build an airport using some of your land, we'll give you a chance to open a business that in the airport that would allow you to sustain and maybe recuperate some of your finances. All of these things, when you talk about it, people don't understand that it be constructive. And so when you look at this country and when you see how things are done, the Bahamian people tends to be forgetting. And I always tell people that one of the greatest things that Bahamian politicians have done in this country is they don't record the good things that has happened before them or the bad things that has happened while they're there. So what they tend to do is keep it as a short memory where Bahamians don't know. Because when you start to tell people, oh, we used to do, Eleuthero used to supply us with milk. On Gladstone Road, we had the chicken farm. On Carmichael Road, we had Golden Eyes. All of these stuff was basically Bahamian owned. So what happened to the Bahamian ingenuity? Well, the Bahamian ingenuity was killed by administrations upon administrations by saying, you know what, we can allow these new business people now to bring in stuff from outside the Bahamas. 9 or 10 times, we don't even know what kind, how long those stuff have been sitting down in warehouses. We don't know the health factor. We haven't had a Ministry of Health say, well, listen, these people are bringing us stuff that is not marked for the country that they're leaving from market. Why are we taking these stuff? We've not had a Minister of Health stand up and say to us and colleagues in government, listen, man, if these people can't eat the stuff they sending us, we don't need these for our people. We've never had no Minister of Health stand up for the Bahamian people for advice. We've had people tell us, oh, bush medicine don't work. But when you look at it, all those people like my grandmother who lived up to be 90 drank bush medicine. Today, you can hardly find some people living old to be 70. So something is being portrayed to us that is untruth. And so I always tell people that when you look around this time around, because as I said again, this is the silly season, as we say, they say in politics. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to look at every member and grade them according to the answers they give you. But right now, I will look at some of the Facebook comments, and I will read some of them, and then we can continue from there. Producer, could you go down there, scroll down, and let's see some of these comments, and let's read some of them. Go, okay, all right. Go down some more. Okay, the Miko Bean. When you use the airspace in building, you create more space out of property. Jermaine knowing community clinic is a thing of the past, as like they don't want to build no micro hospitals. Someone asked me, the current refined the vision is there. Do you want vision less two major parties, that is to steal the CY vision and read Bahamas and read in their website? I'll answer that. But if they see it the way you were talking, then they won't be able to steal money. The Miko Bain, this back and forth between the PLP and FNM has not advanced our country one iota, but only enrich politicians and their cronies. Good point. Jermaine knows all constituencies have been neglected from 2017, and we are now in 2025. The Miko Bain, I haven't seen my area MP from the last election. He has done nothing to advance my community. I I was those school children already on par with major groups. The Mikuben, and this is his second term as an MB. Bamsey should have been constructed in inhabited islands of the Bahamas in 2025. We're getting too old to keep falling for the lies of the PLP and FNM. Jermaine knows the FNM started decreasing the constituency funding in 2017. That's why no constituencies are not getting no new initiatives or upgrades or even manage or maintain properly. It's like both administrations forget how to distribute the funding into initiatives to make constituency look and feel different. The Miko Bain, the immunization policy was abandoned by the PLP and the FNM in favor of direct foreign investments so they can steal from the public place. I was the only person that came close to standing up for Bayman was Penland, now Lincoln Maine. I don't see anybody else. Well, I always tell people this is that political parties are their biggest detriment. And the reason why I say that is because MPs tend to walk in and sit down and feel that once I get elected, I don't have to respond to the people. And if you look at it in Parliament, many of the parliamentarians, when you ask them certain questions, like I did one time ago, and I asked them, I said, why have we not put in a recall system? And he said to me, well, it's a tedious work and this and that. And so I said to myself, it's only tedious if you know that you're not doing your job. So I think we need to, when we now move forward, we have to now look at ways to strengthen our constitution and bring in amendments to straighten the growth of our society. Because if we just going to rely on parties to deliver us, we will still end up basically back in the same old spot as we were. So that was all there from the Facebook. So we can now, I hear the little jingle. We could go to the jingle and then we could come back and then finish up.
All you got to do now is
Keep the Bible on Music Group presents The Legends of Breaking Spring. Get ready for the biggest names in Bahamian music live on stage. KB, Funky D,
Famous, we're discussing about national issues that afflict us in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Famous, we have to wake up very, very quickly because we're going to be severely tried and tested. You know that the Pope has passed, and we was talking about it earlier this week. I believe the funeral of the Pope is going to be on Saturday. He'll be 3 days in state, and people will be able to go out and view his body, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's 3 days. They said he'll be in state for 3 days, and you have people coming from around the world to see Pope Francis. Bahamians, we do not know what may happen today or tomorrow. While we have the opportunity, and God gives us the opportunity, let us do good with it now. Don't wait until it's too late. The dead man can't talk. So while we have life, while we have hope, because some nations are going through some terrible, terrible things in this world today. And I said to myself, I wouldn't want to see those things happen here. We have our share of problems. But when you get to understand what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in the Gaza Strip, what's happening in Haiti, there are some serious things going on, and people are living under tremendous pressure, enormous pressure. Do you know that billions of people are fighting right now for just one of the rights, freedoms, and privileges we have in this country, and we're sitting on it and we're not doing anything with it? You know how many people would like to go and vote in those countries, but don't have the opportunity to do so? And yet some of you say you're not going to participate in the parliamentary process. Do you want to be stripped of that? I don't think you understand what our mothers and fathers did for us as a nation to lay the foundation so that we can have a better country. They sacrificed heavily, and we seem not to appreciate or understand what went on before we came on the scene. That's why you have history, Bahamians. And I think we need to go and dig it up so that we can have a better appreciation for what our mothers and fathers did for us. I have a great appreciation for my mother and father now, although I appreciated them while they were there. They took a lot of heat, Bahamians, for us, 12 in the house, plus the 2 of them. So a lot of things that were going on when I was a child, I did not know because mommy and daddy didn't say anything to us. They took a lot of pressure off us. Now today, we see children being molested. We see children being killed. We see women being raped. We see men shooting down one another in the streets. And people seem to glory in taking pictures of people dying in the streets, Bahamians. What have we come to? Is this what we're supposed to be about? Or are we supposed to be doing some other things which would be beneficial to ourselves, our children, our grandchildren? We got to prepare for generations yet unborn. What are we going to do, Bahamians? We can't just let the place get crack up, broke up. Are we going to wait till we lose it? Some people say, the fellow said, if you don't fight for it, you don't deserve to have it. We're going to wait until we lose this parliamentary system that we have instead of looking at it, using it wisely for the advancement of these people. Bahamians, we got a lot of work to do. But it takes people who have a commitment to do something positive, to make something happen for ourselves and our children. Brother Cartwright.
Yes, Professor. I'm looking at something here on Facebook. I would like for the producer to scroll back a couple because this is very interesting. I'm reading it. Okay. D'Amico Bain is replying to Jermaine Noel with the constituency allowance, which he said is $250,000 a year for every second MP. Then Timothy Woe said, D'Amico, that ain't enough to fix up a park and clean up the area. Each constituency needs $8 to $12 million. That's just the first year. After the first year, they should need $5 million for management and maintenance. D'Amico replied, Timmy, well, I agree, more money needed, but the transparency and accountability. Then Timmy Woes replied, D'Amico, if an independent candidate is elected to Parliament, he can find 6,000 constituency members to put $120 monthly. That's $720 in a month.
Yes.
Which is in 12 months, that's about $8 million to invest in the constituency without any government help. D'Amico replied, constituency allowance should only be increased if the MP recall system is in place, and they should be held accountable for all funds. Jermaine knows saying, Timmy Bo, nah, that's a plan, but don't let the F&M and appeal stand that they will mismanage 75% of the funding. D'Amico said, Timmy Bo, I totally agree with your economic initiative, but empower the community. And Alex Curry said, payments are not serious. Now, I would say this, and listening to what reading with D'Amico, Timmy Woe, and Jermaine knows to say, I would go further. I would basically challenge those who now going to be looking to sit in the next parliament.
Yes.
To see if they believe, or would they, if elected, push to have a recall system whereby now that all MPs, if we were to go down the road with this initiative, and I remember someone had said that we need, each constituency need more heavy funding.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with the heavier funding because I do believe that of the 39 constituencies, $10 million can do a lot. But we need a real serious checks and balance whereby that if the MP, or if we now embrace an idea that I've heard the COI talk about, which I'm down with, more for the Senate should now also become an elected city. Cities.
Yes, cities, yes.
Because I believe that you have two set of people, one with the MP along with the Senate, both of those are individuals elected, and then you have your local government. That three-headed monster can basically sit there and work $10 million in each constituency, because that means now they'll have to really engage the constituents.
Yes.
And I think it can work. But for it to work, you need keys and locks, because you don't want, you want to make sure that money is well protected.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And so one of my ideas that I would like to see was that if we could ever get the true sense of what all our natural resources and their value.
Yes.
Because I've seen where someone had sent me something going back in 2019, and they resent it to me. And it's like, do you realize that the Aragonite in the Bahamas was basically back then considered to be worth trillions of dollars?
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. And he said, imagine if we were to use all of our resources and monetize it, where that some of it can basically be used for these constituencies. So I said, okay, 10 million times 39. So you're looking at $390 million on a basic average. And then I said, if you turn around and take that $10 million and a portion of that is invested by the community on the global market and goes back into that community, I can see that working. And so I said, one of the greatest ideas, and I always tell you, like, you can look at all the ideas that is coming in on Facebook and stuff, that if the parliament was serious about enhancing the communities or the constituencies, that is a great way to go, without even changing the constitution.
That's
you
correct.
Make some amendments, but the thing is, these guys don't want to put keys and locks on when it comes to money.
Yes.
Because if my belief is that if an MP cannot show me where the money was spent properly. I think we should be able to bring him up on charges
Of course.
for misappropriate funds.
Yes.
Whether it's him, the senator, or those in charge of the local government, because you
Yes.
now have to basically have people to be more responsible, because the money is not there as personal. Now, if you're personal money, I have a problem with you take your 10 million, you take your 250,000 and you blow it, that's on you. But when you're talking about taking money from the treasury and using the Bahamian people money,
Yes.
that's where we have to now look into have some locks and keys, and that it should be in. So, like Timmy is saying, that he agreed that the constituency funding should be in the hand of the MP of that constituency, and the members of the constituency should be involved financially, so they can have a hands-on approach when it comes to dealing with their constituency. No one outside the constituency should be fixing up the constituency. And Cornelius Penny just said, all we need in this country is honest and thinking politicians. So when you got the average Bahamian is saying to you, Parliament of the Bahamas, these are great ideas people are presenting to you all. You all have, and I always tell people that it's amazing how we can talk about fixing up Haiti, climate change. And one of the biggest factor hating this country is basically housing. And the reason why it's hating this country, because the former Prime Minister, Hubert Alexander Ingram, when he introduced that Removable Property Act, that has been a major factor, because it allowed foreigners to come into this country, buy up land, and basically they carry the value of the property up.
Yes. That's
Why
right.
not lease and make money off of them through leasing?
That would be a good idea.
You can imagine now you own 1 acre, and the guy said to you, Mr. Thompson, Professor, I would like to lease your property to do so and so. And you say, well, okay, what do you want? What do you want to pay police for how many years? Well, I might want to lease it for 10 years. You say, well, this is my price. If you say, well, Professor, you say, well, Chief, you asking me to lease. If you want, I got to pay the government this real property tax, because this is my property.
That's right.
So you got to pay me so that I can compensate to pay the government their share, and the rest I use for me and my family. When you sell land to non-Bahamians, it basically drives the price of land through the roof.
Yes.
I heard where the Deputy Prime Minister was talking about people looking at and fixing up our main street, which is Bay Street. And I was like, why do we want to bring foreign investment to fix up Bay Street? Why don't you try to get those Bahamians who own those properties to create spaces such as bring back livable facilities in the city where Bahamians can give the city itself some life. And you can have places where if tourists want to spend the night or want to stay overnight or want to, you now create an atmosphere where now people live in the city. You've got businesses now but basically make money, because why? Because the city is now alive.
Yes.
And so you got where people live, you've got apartments, you've got many hotels, you've got restaurants, other things that when people want to do business, it's right here.
Right.
And so when you look at it, when I'm saying here right now, as we started coming close, you have Timmy Bo say, if Bahamian practice group economics, and this is coming from a Bahamian, if Bahamian practice group economics, they could build a funding of 800 million to 1.5 billion every year right now as we speak. But Bahamians don't like people to tell them what to do with their hard-earned money, even if it could help build a generation of wealth for the next 50 years. Bahamian ain't into that. And so these are things, when you see the average Bahamian is now putting out there, anyone who wants to sit in that parliament should reach out to these kind of people and say, hey, man, I didn't see it this way, but how can we implement this if we elected? This is why I say to politicians, parliamentarians, your greatest knowledge of ideas and vision is not with you. It's with the people who live in these communities. And if you don't see it, then you're going to lose out.
You're going to lose out badly. Yes, Brother Cartwright, you made some very interesting remarks. And Bahamians, this is why I have Brother Cartwright come here every week to give us this enlightenment, because he understands and he knows. And Bahamians, you ought to know and understand. We cannot afford to keep going the way we are going now. That is why it's important that we understand how the system ought to be working. The representative is there for the purpose of doing what? Representing the people of that particular constituency. I had the music in the background. I got to shut up. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. The Heyman's lines are open 326-0271, 326-0272, 813-0271. We want to participate in this discussion. And also, I want to see action on the ground. I am not yet satisfied that there's enough that you are doing as constituents in this country to bring the kind of changes that are very essential for the establishment of a new nation called the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break. Well, I was so excited, I even forgot the last break. I apologize, listening audience. This was the last break. We'll be tomorrow again, Friday, and we will have our further discussion because we want you to participate. And Bahamians, we have some serious matters to deal with. Thank you very much for listening and participating. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson. Be safe, Bahamians. Don't get into no difficulty with nobody. Let's pray and ask God to help us, to guide us, to lead us, to instruct us, so we can have a better country. Have a pleasant afternoon.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed